As an early millennial who grew up in total fear of cringe, I always desired to be invisible. Turning Red bring me a comfort and appreciation over the excitable, silly teenage girl that it was. And it was a way to look back at my youth fondly, which women my age aren't really encouraged to do. Hey everyone, it's Reese. Thank you so much for deciding to adventure with me today. On Adventure With Me, we look at creations and experiences in art, media, music, and even video games to explore exactly why we think the way we think, question what we believe, and learn something new. Whew, so it's been a while. If you're listening via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or catching it on ReeseGray.com, or if you moseyed on over here from the Hello Reese gaming channel. But for this new Adventure With Me, Reese Gray Analyzes YouTube channel, hello, I am consistent here. Turning Red is a new Pixar movie released on Disney Plus exclusively, and it's about a 13-year-old girl in 2002 Canada struggling with puberty, periods, boy craziness, but most of all, she struggles with dealing with her inherited ability to turn into a red panda when she gets emotional. Happens. This movie is most notably different as it didn't paint the teenage girls as stereotypically conventionally attractive young girls who are too cool to have any hobbies. The girls are loud, they're determined, they're awkward. They're mini entrepreneurial superstars who are willing to put in the work to meet their goals of raising money themselves in order to buy their own tickets to go to their favorite boy band, Four Towns, concert. They're not afraid to speak their minds, they're not afraid to speak up to their parents and stand up for themselves in front of their classmates. Yes, of course, these girls in Turning Red like some stereotypical teenage girl stuff, like boys in a boy band. But the friendships between the girls is the focus of the movie. Their friendship and growth and sharing of hobbies helps each girl in their unique life situations. This movie actually makes the power of friendship trope work. I found this movie to be really wholesome, very cute. Unlike some other reactors or reviewers or critics, I wasn't shocked by this movie because it felt really familiar to my experience. That being said, if you look at May's childhood story and the relationship with her mom and you don't relate, that's okay. Some critics of the film think May's story is unrelatable and unrealistic because the mom's too pushy. So if you think that, your parents probably treated you with dignity and valued your privacy, and that's great. But some people can't relate to that, myself included. This film gives a plethora of new representations, and I'm not just talking about the obvious Asian representation, but the representation of feeling like you're not enough for your parents, living in a conservative household, dealing with generational trauma, and all these themes meant something to a lot of people. And just because you don't relate to those themes doesn't make Turning Red an inherently bad film. The film just wasn't for you. And that's fine to not like the film because of that, but it doesn't make it a bad film. Let's talk about the film's relatability. How the relatability of art and cinema affect people's perceptions of that very movie. Though the movie stars a Chinese-Canadian family, regardless of your cultural upbringings, anyone who grew up in a more conservative home with stricter parents would probably be able to relate to May. On top of that, usually sensitive and empathetic kids who are more naturally mild-mannered love to please their parents, and they grow up afraid to show their personal thoughts and feelings on matters that their parents don't bring up first in fear of rejection, consequence, or punishment, or kind of general awkwardness. Or you can swing in the absolute opposite direction like me and rebel really, really hard, hate your parents, and not do anything that they say. May, though, toes this line of nuance, which I really love, where she wants to please her parents, and she loves them very much, and she doesn't shut them out entirely. So there's a parable that states that your greatest weaknesses are your strengths overdone. May's strength lies in her emotions. She feels intensely, and that's her greatest strength. Her emotions brings herself and her friends joy. It brings everyone that she knows together. But her emotions can also be her biggest weakness, as her big personality can also command a room. And if that same big personality isn't controlled, It can lead to destruction if she doesn't acknowledge that her big personality has power. The movie depicts that by May literally destroying fixtures and rooms, crashing and damaging the people and things around her while she's transformed into the red panda, but she can also exist as the panda in peace around others. It shows kids that there's nothing wrong with who you are if you understand why you are the way you are and work hard to control that for good. More than anything else as well, I was really impressed by the portrayal of girlhood in this movie. The movie is one of the few representations of girls being awkward girls without the expectation of being beautiful or likable or existing through the male gaze. So the term male gaze was coined by filmmaker Laura Mulvey, who wrote her now famous 1974 essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema. So you can read her paper as well as all the other sources mentioned that are linked in the source notes on reesgrey.com, reesgrey.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, the sources are also linked in the description below. The male gaze is sometimes misunderstood or thrown around as a way that I've been told can make men feel as if they're being villainized, like it's their fault for women wanting to feel attractive. But that's not the point. So Laura's paper simply poses psychoanalytical questions that ask why women and girls are presented the way they are in film. Why unconsciously do we expect to see girls as cute? Why do we think conventionally attractive women are capable of more and are more successful? And where did that idea of the conventionally attractive woman come from? So it's just a way to question status quos of what we are expected to see when we hear the word woman. Laura mentions that she challenges cinema to look past a woman's, quote, to be looked at-ness. So she argues that cinema codes the female body through a gaze or seeing a woman as an object, thereby producing an illusion to be desired instead of a character that is to be developed. Turning Red challenges this typical coming-of-age young girl adolescent trope by May's personality itself becoming transformed. And to be corny about it, she has a makeover of the soul. She grows closer with her mother by expressing her feelings and is able to draw boundaries with her friends as well. When I think of representations of female adolescents in cinema, for myself growing up as a kid, I think 2000s makeover movies, Clueless, Miss Congeniality, She's All That, and of course, The Princess Diaries. As a woman, cinema can teach girls that there's a lot of power that comes from beauty, and there's a huge concentration on transformation, but not of your personality, but transformation into a new, conventionally attractive woman. So I like that for a movie about a 13-year-old girl, there's no focus on her physical appearance, and she changes personality-wise. But we gotta be careful of generalizations here. This isn't to say that physical makeovers or a woman's beauty in cinema are bad. Look at The Devil Wears Prada. It's the same actress as The Princess Diaries, Anne Hathaway. In The Princess Diaries, Anne Hathaway gets a makeover to be pretty because she's a princess. But in The Devil Wears Prada, the makeover delivers Anne Hathaway a reality check, calling out people for looking down on her for the way she looks, and making the character believe that she wasn't being adequately respected for her job because of her appearance.
No, I don't want to quit. That's not fair. But I'm just saying that I would just like a little credit for the fact that I'm killing myself trying.
Ugh, Andy, be serious. You are not trying. You are whining. Don't you know that you were working at the place that published some of the greatest artists of the century? And what they did, what they created, was greater than art. You think this is just a magazine? This is not just a magazine. This is a shining beacon of hope for, oh, I don't know. Let's say a young boy growing up in Rhode Island with 6 brothers, pretending to go to soccer practice when he was really going to sewing class and reading Runway under the covers at night with a flashlight. You don't care. Because this place, where so many people would die to work, you only deign to work. And you want to know why she doesn't kiss you on the forehead and give you a gold star on your homework at the end of the day. Wake up, sweetheart.
Okay, so I'm screwing it up. I don't want to. I just wish that I knew what I could do.
A woman who is conventionally attractive versus a woman who is not conventionally attractive can often be weaponized in this false dichotomy between brains and beauty. But it's also important to remember that concepts like makeovers can be recontextualized to demonstrate that wearing different clothes, makeup, and presenting yourself in a certain way doesn't mean you've lost sight of your career goals, but it can be a significant step towards achieving them. And that's the issue with the male gaze, because this shouldn't be a game that you have to play, but it's a reality that women do. As a girl growing up, it's really difficult to express your hobbies, likes, and desires, even if they're innocent and harmless. For example, like being a VSCO girl, a Starbucks girl, pumpkin spice, that basic lifestyle. Anime, K-pop, boy bands, being too girly, being too much of a tomboy. No matter how you express your hobbies or gender identity, it's really easy to feel as if you should change it to be subdued, to be that cool girl, more chill, to be that Manic Pixie dream girl type. If you don't know, the Manic Pixie dream girl term was coined by author Nathan Rabin back in 2007 after seeing Kirsten Dunst in Elizabethtown.
You're an artist, man. Your job is to break through barriers, not accept blame and bow and say, thank you, I'm a loser, I'll go away now. Have the courage to fail big and stick around. Make them wonder why you're still smiling.
In Western cinema, it's a common movie trope where a girl exists for another, usually a man's, attention to help the male's goals and fulfill the male's dreams, but the woman doesn't have any desires, passions, or goals of their own. The cool girl concept is commonly attributed to the 2011 book GoneGirl.
Cool girl. Men always use that, don't they? As their defining compliment. She's a cool girl. Cool girl never gets angry at her man. She only smiles. She likes what he likes. Who talks football and endures buffalo wings at Hooters.
I'm not like other girls mentality. Speaking from the lens of Western norms, men are taught to reject anything emotional and focus on what's considered masculine. So much so that men tend to shield themselves off from being friends with women because they're more emotional, on top of the already existing notion that women aren't cool enough by virtue because of their gender. So the temptation to say, I'm not like other girls, reinforces the notion that something is wrong with enjoying stereotypically feminine pastimes and expressing emotions. So endorsing the cool girl trope subjects women to gender roles, asking them to appear emotionless to please men who are taught from a young age that emotions aren't masculine. So this phenomenon simultaneously promotes the idea that one girl is better than another, and not being like other girls is a bonus. So men and women suffer from this trope because in the cool girl world, nobody gets to express their emotions or have complex conversations. And speaking from my own experience, it's easy to desire to be a woman who exists parallel to everyone else, because if you cause too much attention to yourself as a woman or a girl, it can lead to terrifying judgments and preconceived notions of you either being basic or too much. And those feelings of fear come from the social norm of making fun of teenage girls and women for just enjoying things that they like. But yeah, basic bitch jokes are hilarious, and there's a place for them, but there's also a time to realize that those kinds of tropes are targeted and unfair. For a growing child's brain and body to be so self-aware and out of control of their bodily and hormonal changes, and to only make fun of them without popular media ever celebrating them, can be dangerous. And I think that's why I like Turning Red so much. I was a total cringe lord as a teenager, and as an early millennial who grew up in total fear of cringe, and not this cringe appreciation that younger people have, I always desired to be invisible. Turning Red bring me a comfort and appreciation over the excitable, silly teenage girl that I was. And it was a way to look back at my youth fondly, which women my age aren't really encouraged to do. And this movie doesn't stop with its critiques of the vilification of only girls' interests, but boys too. The movie explores the boyhood experience through Tyler's character. And in the film, Tyler starts out as a school bully, but we don't know why, because we don't have much background on him. He often makes fun of May,
Overachieving dork narc.
or picks on her in class. Tyler goes out of his way to mock the girls in May's friend group, especially when prodded by his friends.
Doing. We want more rides.
Buzz off, jerkface, I'm busy!
Oh, snap! You're gonna take that, Tyler?
In his birthday scene, he's prompted to insult May after May stands up to him at a party. It's later revealed that Tyler feels emasculated by liking stereotypically girly things and attempts to assert his masculinity and gain public approval by denouncing the very things that make him happy, because Tyler is a secret Four-Town fan. And he probably feels really scared to admit that, because boy bands are stereotypically for girls, and his fear of being found out makes him a bully. And I understand that Tyler had most likely been going through some level of internalized misogyny and was taking it out on May. We see a lot of hypocrisy when Tyler hires May to be the red panda at his birthday party.
I want to throw a sick birthday party. An epic one. If you're there, everyone will come. Simple as that.
So people will show up to his birthday party. In a lot of media, we see male characters belittling female characters until they can be used for gain, prestige, or profit. So Tyler needing May, the female character, the red panda, to get anyone to attend his birthday party, which is very obvious by the body language of the other characters in the movie that nobody actually wants to be at Tyler's birthday party in the first place, can be seen as a really subtle parallel to a society that wants to use girls' bodies and profit off of, while simultaneously wanting to subdue, quiet, and shame the women who are attached to those female bodies. In an interview with the creator, Domee Shi, they revealed that they originally had a much bigger story for Tyler. In an interview with Slate, Domee said, Aaron Z from Four-Town is the sporty one, and he's very stoic. And Tyler really bonds with Aaron Z because both of them are Blasian, which is mixed ethnicity of Black and Asian. So Tyler really sees himself in Aaron Z. So Domee said there was this whole backstory, and it was actually cut from the movie. So despite Tyler's story being cut, like, super short, Tyler understood that he was being a jerk because he was going through the same changes and growth as May was. I think after seeing May go through changes and emotional outbursts, maybe he realized that he was doing the same. So instead of the two being terrified of who they were, they benefited each other and enjoyed their hobbies together. I know I said I wanted to stay away from outside critiques of this movie, but we have this weird meme floating around denoting that Tyler might be gay or otherwise queer because of his love for boy bands and because he ends up being besties with the girls. Now, to quickly bring up weird internet critiques just for a second, we really need to let go of that trope as well, that our hobbies and preferences in media have anything to do with our sexuality. They can influence it, sure, but hobbies are not linked to sexuality, and I feel like this is something that is being unfairly put on Tyler's character via silly memes, but I truly believe that's the minority of people doing this, but I still think it's worth bringing up. I think that it might be some misplaced goodwill, though, because a lot of the time in popular media, misogyny and homophobia go hand in hand. So people make this mistake of being anti-misogynistic with this over-representation of queerness and pushing sexuality onto things that have nothing to do with sexuality, like music preference. Sure, Tyler can be gay, yeah, but it's not because he likes Four-Town, and it's not because he's friends with girls, but I digress. All in all, people become better when they have support systems, good role models, healthy friendships, and acceptance, because they now have room to grow and people to learn from and be better with. Moving on, as pretty much everyone noticed, May's bodily changes against her will, turning into the red panda, represents puberty. Overall, people were either very impressed by the movie's attempt to bring up puberty and menstruating, or very against it, saying their kids weren't ready to hear that yet. On top of that, there's a lot of critics that say Turning Red had some kind of agenda or was too mature for children, which is quite blatantly ignorant, because whether you like it or not, kids are gonna go through puberty, and as children, their hormones are going to make them start having feelings of attraction and desire towards other people, and they're going to test their limits and start having their own thoughts and feelings independent of their parents' teachings. It's better for parents and children to have an open dialogue than to go along with the status quo common in both Western and Eastern parenting that represses and shames children for having normal thoughts and feelings and bodily function. We had people who were disturbed that Mei at 13 had desires and attraction, because she drew little fan art of her and her crush like hugging, and her crush as a merman. So are you guys really gonna sit there and tell me at 13 years old you didn't have a crush, attraction, or desire? Like, get over it. Disney princesses and princes have been kissing in movies for decades, getting married at first sight, and y'all never said anything because it fit the status quo. Girls have a desire and attraction, and that starts in childhood. We should teach young girls growing up how to deal with these feelings and desires instead of telling them to stifle them. It's okay to have those feelings and explore them. Additionally, we should express to growing girls to know that and truly understand that your worth doesn't come from your desirability or attractiveness as well. This isn't a theme that the movie explores, but there's this odd trope where women are supposed to be alluring and attractive and desirable, but have no desires themselves. So this is kind of shown in the movie. You see how nobody was complaining that the girls had little crushes on the four-town boys and fanned over them? That was totally okay. But Mei exploring her desire and attraction on her own by drawing little pictures, that wasn't okay. Growing girls and women have independent thoughts, feelings, and desires, and that's natural, and I'm glad the movie did something to represent that. And lastly, I want to touch on the cultural representation of this movie. In fact, this movie brings up some racist tendencies that Asian parents tend to have, which is really unique and self-reflectory and cool. They set it up by having Mei shove her friends out the window when they sneak into her room.
Crap, you guys better go. But no buts, Mir. My mom already doesn't like you.
Wait, she doesn't?
Later, the mom says to the husband that she doesn't trust her friends, especially that Mir girl.
Some of the kids at school like them.
You mean Miriam? That girl is odd.
And finally, the third time when she walks up to the girls after the party and is talking to all of the girls, but is actually pointing straight at Mir and looking directly into her eyes alone when accusing them, Mir, of corrupting her baby girl, Mei.
Girls would use her like this.
What?
But we didn't.
We'd never. What? I knew you were trouble. Putting all these thoughts into Mei's head, parading her around. Now she's lying, sneaking out. She attacked a defenseless boy. You think this is a joke? Do you know how dangerous this is?
You wanted to.
Don't you blame her. She is a good girl, and you've taken advantage of her.
Mei.
So oddly, there can be a lot of mistrust and preconceived notions and racial and cultural stereotypes from people of color onto white friends. Some people of color, especially immigrant, don't speak very good English, not really have much interaction with white people, and they may generalize them and think that all their white friends are spoiled, they're bad influence, based solely on the fact that they're white. Turning Red shows in a really subtle way that marginalized people can also harbor sweeping generalizations and stereotypes that can cause harm to their very children, to the people that they love and they're trying to help, but it actually ostracizes the child from other children on the basis of cultural differences and misunderstanding. The movie also makes a few other subtle cultural difference notes. For example, when the girls are playing dodgeball and they're all complaining about how they were all told by their parents they couldn't go to the concert. But culturally, the parents all told them they couldn't go to the concert differently.
My parents said I could go when I'm 30. Mine called it stripper music. What's wrong with that? Mine said yes, but I have to buy the ticket. Who the heck's got that kind of cash?
So these moments felt like little nods to how our parents were like when we were growing up based on cultural differences. It gives the audience an option on who they can relate to regardless of what they look like. Instead of giving the audience one story, one background to relate to, it's many different ones. And it's a way to also see people in cinema who look different, and also that's inconsequential to your experiences. Maybe you can relate to one character and they look different than you, and that just makes you realize some similarities that you didn't know you had with someone of a different culture. So you have this ability to relate and learn from each other and each character. The movie presents these themes very naturally and subtly, and I'm glad they wrote it the way that they did. And I loved it. I hope you guys really liked this little video that kind of explored why turning red would make people angry. I think it pretty much challenges the typical coming of age films. And I think when we're used to seeing one point of view for such a long time, used to seeing like really similar representations of girlhood and girls and childhood experiences, when something comes along that's different, that maybe people who usually can relate to movies can't relate to it, they get defensive and just think it's a bad movie, but it's not. It's just different. But you don't have to like it, and that's okay. I liked it though. Thanks for adventuring with me today. Let me know if you like Turning Red or not. You don't have to agree with me. Just let me know in the comments. I love talking to you guys. Like, oh my gosh, you guys have all been so nice. I've gotten really, really nice comments, especially on the Bo Burnham video. So I like the communication aspect of content creation is like my favorite. So I just highly encourage you guys to to please talk to me. Just I sound desperate. I'm lonely. No, but like oh, before you go, wait. Make sure you like and subscribe and or rate this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you are, so you can keep adventuring with me and we can keep this conversation going on Mental Health Mondays. So Mental Health Mondays will be a segment of the show where we'll get answers to any listeners' questions about love, life, prior video essay here with me, Reese Gray. You can submit your questions anonymously on reesegray.com under Mental Health Monday. That's REESEGREY.com. Or leave a comment on YouTube, on Instagram. I'm at Hello Reese. Tweet me. People don't usually do that. I'm bad at Twitter. Don't tweet me, please. I don't know what to do on there. If you do choose to submit anonymously on the website, you could do so, or if you want to be notified that your question is being chosen for a future episode, you can leave your email or other social media handle in the submission box and I will let you know, always with genuine enthusiasm, always anonymous. Looking forward to hearing from you. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, love you, bye. Bye. Never gonna let you ride. What? Never not. Ooh.